It was supposed to be an ordinary night for Kandi Burruss and Todd Tucker, the kind of evening where you dress up, enjoy the lights, and forget about the stress of everyday life. Nobody expected that night to turn into a terrifying reminder of just how fragile life can be. For Todd, what began as a simple outing quickly spiraled into a moment that nearly changed everything. It started with discomfort in his chest, a heaviness that he brushed off, thinking maybe it was just stress or fatigue. But this wasn't something that could be ignored. His wife, Kandi, later revealed the scare in a way that shook her fans to their core. She admitted that for a few moments, she thought her husband was slipping away from her. She thought it might be a heart attack. Those words alone carried enough weight to stop anyone in their tracks. Luckily, Todd survived. He's okay now, but the moment left scars not on his body, but on their hearts. Because when you face the possibility of losing the person you love, you never forget how close you came to a nightmare. Kandi Burruss is no stranger to emotional battles. She's been in the public eye for decades, and her life has played out on TV screens, in music, and on social media. But behind the cameras, she has always been a woman juggling countless roles: a wife, a mother, a performer, and a businesswoman. And at the center of it all is her marriage to Todd Tucker. Their relationship has often been tested by public criticism, family drama, and the pressure of fame. But no challenge was as frightening as the night Todd's health took a turn. For years, Todd has been the steady force by Kandi's side. Fans saw them as a strong team, partners who built businesses together, raised children together, and faced down the critics together. But that night stripped away all the glitz and glamour, leaving only raw fear. Kandi later shared how her mind went blank when she saw Todd struggling. She had always been the one to fix problems, but in that moment, she could only pray that he would be okay. Their journey as a couple has never been simple. From the start, their love story was met with doubt. Some said Todd was after Kandi's money. Others accused Kandi of ignoring her family's warnings about him. Their marriage became a constant target for gossip. But through it all, they fought to prove that their love was real. And then came this heart scare, a reminder that sometimes life tests you in ways no rumor ever could. Kandi had always been vocal about her own health challenges: fibroids, fertility struggles, weight changes. She never shied away from telling her fans about the battles she fought behind closed doors. And now, it was Todd's turn to face a health crisis that forced both of them to slow down and pay attention to what truly mattered. For years, Todd had been the type of man who brushed things off. Chest pains? Probably stress. Fatigue? Just work. But this time, his body wasn't letting him ignore the warning signs. It was screaming for help. The night started out full of excitement. Todd and Kandi had plans, a chance to enjoy themselves after weeks of non-stop schedules. But halfway through, Todd felt a strange tightness in his chest. At first, he ignored it. He didn't want to ruin the evening. But then the numbness spread to his arm. He shifted in his seat, trying to act normal, but Kandi noticed. She always noticed. She whispered, asking if he was okay, and Todd gave his usual answer, "I'm fine." But he wasn't fine. The signs were all their classic warnings that something was very wrong. After the show, they went to dinner with friends. Todd tried to smile through it, but the unease wouldn't go away. He rubbed his arm, leaned back in his chair, and tried to shake it off. His friends grew concerned. "Man, you don't look right," one of them said. But Todd kept insisting he was okay. Deep down, though, he knew something was wrong. His chest felt heavier, his breath shorter. Finally, his friends couldn't take it anymore. They called 911. Todd thought about protesting, but part of him realized this was bigger than pride. This was life or death. When the paramedics arrived, the reality hit. The fear in Kandi's eyes said it all. She wasn't thinking about cameras, fame, or money. She was thinking about losing the man she loved. As Todd was rushed to the hospital, Kandi's mind replayed every fight, every laugh, every moment they had shared. Would this be the last? The wait at the hospital felt endless. The tests, the machines, the whispers of doctors, it was enough to break anyone down. Finally, the results came in. Todd hadn't suffered a full heart attack, but the scare was serious enough to serve as a wake-up call. He had dangerously high blood pressure and early signs of heart trouble. In other words, he had narrowly escaped something much worse. For Kandi, it was relief mixed with fear. Relief that he was alive, fear of what could happen if they didn't make changes. The emotional impact of that night was massive. Todd realized how close he had come to leaving his family behind. He thought about his kids, his wife, his unfinished dreams. He admitted later that he had ignored too many signs, too many warnings from his own body. And Kandi, well, for her, the scare cut even deeper. She had already carried so much weight on her shoulders: businesses, family drama, career stress. But the thought of losing Todd broke her in a way that no amount of money or fame could fix. She shared the story with fans not just as a headline, but as a lesson. She wanted people to understand that health is not something you can put on the back burner. You can't ignore the little signs. You can't keep saying, "I'll be fine." Because one day, you might not be. This wasn't just about Todd's health. It was about their family. Kandi admitted she looked at their children differently after that night. She thought about how much they needed their father. She thought about how quickly life could change. In that moment, every argument they had ever had, every rumor that had ever circled their marriage, felt meaningless. What mattered was love, family, and time, the kind of things you can't buy back once they're gone. The scare became a turning point for Todd and Kandi. They started talking openly about making changes: diet, exercise, stress management. They began seeing their health not just as an individual responsibility, but as something they had to face together. And in sharing their story with the public, they turned their pain into a message of hope and warning for others. Because here's the truth: Todd's story isn't unique. How many times do men ignore chest pains, brushing them off as nothing? How many times do women carry the emotional load of their families while forgetting to care for themselves? Todd and Kandi's scare shined a light on something millions of families quietly face: the danger of ignoring health until it's almost too late. Their honesty sparked conversations online. Fans shared their own stories of heart scares, strokes, and wake-up calls. People thanked Kandi for being vulnerable enough to share, for reminding them that even celebrities can face the same fears as everyone else. By the time Todd was released from the hospital, both he and Kandi knew things had to change. This wasn't just about him surviving that night. It was about living differently from now on. For Todd, it meant finally putting his health first, not last. For Kandi, it meant cherishing every moment, knowing how quickly it could all be taken away. And for their fans, it meant watching a couple they admired turn pain into power. As the days passed, Kandi updated her followers. "Todd is okay," she wrote, her words filled with gratitude. But she also admitted just how scared she had been, how for a few moments, she thought her world was crashing down. That honesty is what makes their story so powerful. Kandi didn't sugarcoat the fear. She didn't pretend everything was fine. She showed her vulnerability, and in doing so, she reminded the world that love, family, and health are what truly matter in the end. And that's the message here. Life is fragile. One night, one symptom, one ignored warning sign can change everything. Todd's scare may not have ended in tragedy, but it was close enough to leave a mark forever. It forced him and Kandi to step back and see the bigger picture. They realized that success means nothing without health. That arguments mean nothing when compared to the fear of losing each other. And that every day we get to spend with the people we love is a gift, not a guarantee. So the next time you feel that ache, that twinge, that little voice in your head telling you something's wrong, don't ignore it. Learn from Todd and Kandi's story. Take it seriously before it's too late. Because at the end of the day, no amount of fame, fortune, or pride can replace your health. And as Kandi said best, Todd's okay now. But this was our wake-up call. The closing chapters of Todd and Kandi's story after his health scare are not just about survival, but about transformation. It was never simply about a man who faced a frightening medical moment, or a wife who stood by his side. It was about two people being forced to look at their lives, their marriage, and their future with brand new eyes. When Todd sat in that hospital bed, staring at the ceiling with machines beeping around him, he realized how fragile everything really was. No amount of money, no fame, no television spotlight could protect him from that split second when his chest tightened and his breath grew short. And Kandi, watching the man she loved struggle, had her world shaken in ways she had never imagined. For years, their lives had been wrapped in hustle. Kandi was always creating, building, performing, producing. Todd was always strategizing, managing, moving projects forward. They built businesses together, they raised children, they created opportunities for people around them. But in all of that, they sometimes forgot to slow down. They forgot that even the strongest body can grow tired, and even the strongest marriage can bend under the weight of constant work and pressure. This health scare forced them to stop. It forced them to breathe. It forced them to face questions that no reality show could script and no business deal could answer: what truly matters when everything else fades away? Kandi admitted later that she cried in silence when Todd was first admitted. She held it together in front of family, but behind closed doors, she broke down. She thought about the possibility of raising their children alone. She thought about birthdays and graduations without him sitting in the audience. She thought about the projects they dreamed of building together, the trips they planned but kept putting off, and she realized how easily it all could have been snatched away. That fear was not just passing, it stayed with her, carved into her heart like a scar, reminding her daily that love cannot be taken for granted. Todd, on his part, went through his own awakening. He admitted to friends that lying in that bed made him rethink every choice he had made. He thought about the long nights at the studio, the endless business calls, the moments when he told Kandi just one more meeting instead of sitting down to dinner with the family. He thought about how many times he told himself he would schedule a doctor's appointment later, or exercise tomorrow, or rest next week. And then tomorrow nearly didn't come. That shook him. That changed him. That made him vow never again to take time, health, or love lightly. Their marriage, which had already faced the storms of public judgment, business conflicts, and blended family challenges, entered a new chapter. This time, the fight was not against rumors or critics, but against time itself. And instead of letting fear drive them apart, they leaned in closer. Kandi held his hand a little tighter. Todd listened to her a little longer. They began to prioritize things differently. Family dinners became non-negotiable. Vacations were no longer postponed. Even small moments like watching TV on the couch together or taking a walk in the neighborhood suddenly carried a weight and sweetness that hadn't been there before. The public, of course, had their eyes on them too. Fans who had followed their journey from Real Housewives of Atlanta to spin-offs and social media cheered when Todd made a recovery. Messages of love poured in, with people sharing their own stories of health scares and marital wake-up calls. Some said they felt inspired to schedule a checkup after seeing what Todd went through. Others said they were reminded to hug their loved ones a little tighter that night. It became bigger than just Todd and Kandi. It became a lesson in love, resilience, and perspective for everyone watching. But even with support, there were whispers. The internet, as always, never stays quiet. Some critics claimed the health scare was exaggerated for attention. Others accused Kandi of using it as another storyline for fame. But those closest to them knew the truth. The pain in Kandi's eyes wasn't scripted. The fear in Todd's voice wasn't rehearsed. What they went through was raw, real, and life-changing. And those who truly understood offered nothing but prayers and encouragement. As time passed, Todd's recovery became a daily reminder of grace. He started taking better care of his body, adjusting his schedule, and respecting the limits he once ignored. Kandi too made changes, choosing projects more carefully, making sure that her calendar left space for family and rest. Together, they became more intentional about how they lived. They were no longer just chasing success, they were chasing peace, health, and joy. And perhaps the most beautiful part of this story is that it deepened their bond in ways nothing else could. For years, people questioned their relationship. Some called Todd opportunistic, others doubted Kandi's choices. But standing together in the face of life and death silenced many of those voices. What people saw was not a woman supporting a man because it looked good on camera, but because she truly loved him. What they saw was not a man holding on to fame through his wife, but holding on to the one person who made life worth fighting for. Their love was not perfect, but it was real. And in the end, real love is what endures. The final moments of reflection came during a family dinner, weeks after Todd returned home. Kandi looked around the table at their children laughing, Todd smiling, and she whispered a quiet prayer of thanks. She realized then that the true measure of her life was not the awards on her shelf or the businesses she built, but these simple, sacred moments with the people she loved. Todd, catching her eye across the table, simply nodded. No words were needed. They both knew they had been given a second chance. And they were not going to waste it. So as the curtain closes on this chapter, the lesson shines bright. Life is unpredictable. Health is fragile. Love is the anchor that keeps us steady when storms hit. Todd's scare could have been an ending, but instead, it became a beginning, a call to live with more gratitude, more presence, and more love. And for Kandi and Todd, that is the real victory. Not the fame, not the fortune, but the faith and family that carried them through. And maybe that's the reminder for all of us watching their story unfold. To slow down. To care for our bodies. To cherish our partners. To forgive faster, love deeper, and never assume we have unlimited tomorrows. Because as Todd and Kandi now know all too well, every heartbeat is a gift. And when you're lucky enough to share it with someone who stands by you through it all, that's when life is truly rich.